Hey there, it's author and attorney Kelly O'Connell with Knockout Radio, and today's show is about the astonishing collapse of American policy in Afghanistan, the fall of Kabul, the president running away, and how this all has finally exposed Joe Biden as the emperor without clothes or the scarecrow without a brain. It's astounding. It's shocking. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. I have never seen a party that so completely sold its soul. Maybe the Nazis. I don't know. I don't know all about that stuff. But a party that totally sold its soul to the wrong person, and he's incompetent, and he's making major decisions. His vice president is not capable, she's not liked, and she's not interested in responsibility. She just wanted the job. So let's talk about that, and then a little bit of weird news. I'm publishing this tomorrow in Canada Free Press. In 8 months, Biden destroyed his reputation, his party, and now aims at America. And as they say, or this will be the new saying, there goes the Democrat theory, nobody could be worse than Trump. So, you know, you've got to admit that when you heard about the fact that we were leaving, it was no surprise because Trump had already mentioned it, right? And then it was kind of in the background, nobody really talking about it. And then the day is coming up. And I'm not sure, I think they let the Taliban know approximately when they were leaving. It's the kind of thing that Joe would do. He went over to Russia and said, please don't hack these 16 industries, which number one says that Putin has control over the hackers. And number two, that's the first people to hack if I was Putin. But anyway, it's incredible. The entire country fell so quickly, and there's all kinds of mistakes that we made. But I would say the first mistake is getting in there in the first place, and these were the neocons. It was George Bush. It was Cheney, Dick Cheney, and it was a whole bunch of people, Paul Wolfowitz and all these other people who said that, you know, what the definition of a neocon is. They used to be a liberal, they used to be a Democrat, they got tired of all the failure and all the garbage, and so they become a Republican, but they bring a lot of their ideas with them. And one of the things that they brought with them, and this is the height of hubris, was that we're the only superpower, and we therefore have a duty to go and use our superpower status to go around the world and fix it. And so we spent 20 years in Afghanistan, and the army fell in a couple of days, right? Well, I heard they hadn't been paid in 7 months, so I don't know how accurate that is. But it's really astonishing. And one of the lessons that I would throw out there, and I'll get to it later, but you can't inject culture from outside. You have to grow a culture in the place. You have to tap into it or change it. And they didn't change the culture there because they don't understand the religion. Now, I just so happen to have spent a lot of time studying Sharia law, so if you have any questions, I would tell you to call in, but I am no longer on live radio. All right, so the crisis. What was the crisis? If Joe Biden was the answer, what then was the crisis? And supposedly it was Donald John Trump, who was the imagined child of Hitler and Satan. And he was the worst man in the world, right? The worst, most terrible person. Anything that he did, because he was satanic, because everything was tainted. Very childish view, by the way. Everything that he did was wrong, and it had to be opposed, and that's what Nancy Pelosi showed us. And that's what all of these other people showed us. So we're paying for it now. We're paying for the Dems, for their hubris, for their arrogance. Now, sometimes Trump was neurotic, maybe always, but we're all neurotic. Sometimes he was bombastic, or usually he was bombastic, but he thought outside of the box. It meant a great deal to him to succeed, which I think that he did in terms of his achievements. And I see him as a patriot who fought against half the nation from the first day he got into office till the end, and he achieved a lot of results. But did it really take a wizened, old, doddering, mentally spent blowhard to establish this? Insipid Joe showing the way? No. America could have avoided the embarrassing and costly fall of Kabul, 2 million sickly illegals, the collapse of our petroleum industry, and rampant inflation. And that's just one of the things. I mean, foreign policy is absolutely in the toilet too. 8 months to destroy what it had taken decades to achieve. Now, if only the San Francisco Sea Hag, Nancy Pelosi, and her toadies, you know what a toady is, right? A little suck-up follower, had just sucked it up when they lost to Trump instead of seeking to destroy their supposed enemy, we wouldn't be watching the Taliban slaughtering thousands of innocent souls, many Muslim women being raised as feminists. And I saw that there was an interview with this lady, and she said, we're not going to put up with the Taliban. We're not going to be pushed back in the sidelines into the shadows. And I'm thinking this lady is either going to change her mind pretty fast, or she's toast. She's either going to get beaten down and turned into a slave, or she's going to be killed. And there's a lot of women that have been raised Western style in Afghanistan because we were there. And what are we teaching people? We're teaching them to be woke, right? How realistic is it to be woke in a Muslim country? But here's another question I want to ask you. How true is woke? Is being woke something you go and teach to another civilization, another country, another religion, and it's so true that it just hits them with the force of, a thunderbolt? Being woke is a very sickly cultural phenomenon that's only found in the West in decaying cultures. So, all right, so Trump was never a problem. He was just that last barrier between the democratic socialists, not to be redundant, the last existential threat to their utopia. Trump, a battle-hardened New York business king and a TV star for almost 20 years, instead of trying to destroy him because he was unafraid of their attacks and he always demanded French answers and results, why not just work with him? All right. So what did we learn? What have we learned? When you saw this thing unfolding, what did you say to yourself? Number one, Biden is utterly incompetent. He's not fit to lead. With the 1-2 punch of the border in Afghanistan, our president is a proven failure. He'll never be able to rehabilitate his reputation. His every policy change from Trump has been an unmitigated disaster. Think about it. All the stuff that they were going to get up and show the world, we're right, we criticize Trump. And it shows you one more time the failure in the mind of these people, and they were fighting against Trump, and they were actually fighting for failure. So as soon as they had the chance, because they had talked themselves into hating Trump and therefore all of his policies, because he's the child of Satan and Hitler. And so you've got this outcome where the way to prove that you're a good person in woke land, in this kind of diluted woke land, in the social justice warrior utopia, is you get up and you push back. You speak truth to power. You push back against people, and you fight them. Now, because Trump was so isolated, he oftentimes didn't have much help, even though he was usually in the right. So we didn't need to have an incompetent man with dementia running the country. And that's really the problem here. Do I feel sorry for Joe? I don't feel sorry for him one bit. I think he's a liar. I think he's a terrible person. He's a fraud. His son, which is another disaster, but he sent his son out. His son went to Russia and went to China. He went to Ukraine. He went to all over the world to try to get protection money, really is how I see it, shaking the bushes. And now he's out blowing, he's not doing blow, he's blowing paint down a pipe tube. It's probably hallucinating and thinking he's got a crack pipe in his mouth. But he's making these pictures and they're selling for $500,000 a piece. So how you support the Biden family is to buy a painting, because they live like kings. All right, number two. So number one, Biden's incompetent. He's got to be removed from office. He's in no shape to make decisions. And this is going to come out in just such a gigantic way, you're not going to believe it. And I saw Jake Tapper do something I'd never seen him do before. He acted like a journalist. He got this Blinken, the Secretary of State, and he put him on the hot seat, and he just blasted him. And Blinken had no answers as to how this happened. Just because you're going to give the country back doesn't mean you have to do it in the middle of the night, pull all the troops out, and then let all the people that helped America get killed. I mean, there's going to be a lot of murders over there. Number two, Kamala is not trusted. Vice President Harris is obviously not trusted because the Democrats are making no move to try to get her into office. She's seen as a failure right out of the box. There's no upside to the VP Harris. She runs from responsibility. She was given the border. She didn't want anything to do with it. And I will give her credit for one thing. She knew they weren't going to change, and it would be a disaster for her to be seen as being part of it. But it's too late. She was put into that position, and I think she was put into the position to expose her or see if she was loyal. So even amongst other politicians, she's seen as unlikable and fake. She's dead weight. Her laugh is like the bray of a thousand donkeys. Dems sold their collective soul to the devil. They're in a catastrophic position. There's no escaping from it. They've got to lose giant the next couple of cycles. Now, here's another one. 3, blaming is not a policy. Up to this point, every single problem that they've had, they've automatically blamed on Trump. Why are we having a border problem? Well, Trump ruined the border. Now, a year ago, or in March 2020, there were 16,000 people that came across the border. Last month, there was 250 plus. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 275 or 300,000. They're taking them. They're not testing them. They are not giving them any vaccine, and they're just dropping them off in the middle of the night across the United States, and people are getting sick from them. So she's dead. They got to find another way, and there is no other way because you can't fire a vice president. Blaming is not a policy, like I just said. It's been 8 months, and people are tired of the blame game. Number 4, opposing Trump policies is not a platform. Think about this. Think about how righteous, and this is the power of propaganda. Nancy Pelosi pretending like she's a godlike savior. She's fighting Trump. He's evil incarnate. And they're always playing propaganda. Why? Because the number of leftists, true leftists, is very small, and so they have to use propaganda. They have to misuse the court system. They have to sneak in laws that are not fair. They have to cheat for voting. They have to, which they've done for years, and that's how they win. So making these decisions, deciding to open the border because Trump wanted a closed border, stupid. Just leaving Afghanistan. You know what? It gives me the feeling that Trump is just not Trump, but Biden is very tired, and he doesn't want to put any effort into anything. And because of that, there's just a lot of bad things that are happening because they're actually somehow letting this old gas bag make decisions. How is it possible? He's not even competent. So the last thing that I would point out, although there's 100 more examples here, but another example I'll just throw it in is you have a group of people that are in a cabal. They're in a clique. They're in a little tight kind of off the beaten path group, like these socialists, these Marxists. It's a bad idea to put them in charge, because then you've got the worst choices, the worst decisions, because nobody's pushing back. Nobody's allowed to push back. You can't communicate with Biden because he's incompetent. He's out of it. He's got dementia. And so you've got all of these people that are unelected behind him that are making the decisions. Now, are they trying to sabotage America? I mean, they're clearly trying to make America sick by shipping all these sick people over in the night without inoculations, and it's illegal. I don't know if you are aware of the fact you can't do stuff like that. Harmful things, federal government can't do harmful things that have no reasonable defense. So you decide you're going to leave Afghanistan, which is supposed to be the graveyard of empires. That's what they call it. And you have just a desultory plan, a very simple plan, where on this day everybody's going to leave. They don't get rid of all the weapons and equipment that they leave behind, and so that's immediately moved over to Iran, from what I understand. One of our main enemies over there, probably our main enemy in the world. And you don't take care of all the people that need to be removed from the country, or they would be killed. All the people that helped with the Americans. Those are the people that deserve to come over here, not a bunch of random people from Central America. People that worked for us, that we put on the line. And these people, all these contractors, all these Afghanis that helped us, need to be brought here so they're not murdered. And if it's 100,000, that's 100,000 good people because they're pro-American. So think about the mistakes that have been made in 8 months, and they're willful mistakes, and they're stupid mistakes, and there's no upside to them. There's no upside into opening the border and letting 250, 300,000 people come over in 1 month. Unless you're a Democrat, and they will become instant Democrats. There's no upside to shutting down oil production in America and then begging foreign countries for oil. And think about these things. All Biden has to do is reverse the policies on the border, and it would shut down in a heartbeat. It's also funding and strengthening the cartels. The cartels are the strongest entity on the border, not the United States Army, not the Border Patrol, not ICE, giving Iran money so that they can give missiles to Hamas so they can shell Israel. It's crazy. And now there's no upside to leaving without a plan. So anyway, in 8 months, Biden destroyed his reputation, assaulted his party, or his party used him to destroy itself, and now tries to destroy America itself. But the biggest miracle of all, in a little over a half of a year, Biden proved every single thing Trump said was correct. Further, that he actually was a great president. Biden has proved that Trump was a great president. And thanks to Demented Joe and his wildly ambitious and greedy party, Trump now plots his return to the Oval Office, to be continued, sports fans. All right, let's get into a couple of kind of interesting stories that I found. And let's see, let's try to get 3 of them here because I'm finding like 10 a day. All right, here's 3 good ones. Nita Marie, Christian OnlyFans model, says she strips because that's what God wants her to do. Quote, now I'm looking at her, she's kind of a MILF, appears to be in her 40s, very buxom, nice smile. Now she said that she lives in Colorado. I asked God if I should continue stripping off, and the answer was always yes. And Nita Marie believes it's her divine mission to empower other women to embrace their sexuality. And so she said that she was trying to build a more positive spiritual relationship with Christ. She wasn't raised as a Christian, and she says that experience helped me to see Christianity, and I built a relationship with Christ, and on a personal level, rather than one filed with a doctrine written by men thousands of years ago. There's one of the great heresies in history, is that you're going to develop a relationship with God or Christ outside of the Bible. Okay, and so she also says on her website, have you ever wanted to blank your best friend's mom? I'm a real sex-craved woman in her 40s. and I've got a lot of secrets. So she's got a lot of followers here. And here's one of her last quotes, that Christianity has suppressed women's sexuality from the beginning, and believes that's not what God intended, and God gave her sexuality as a gift to share with others where both parties are consensual. There's nothing wrong with embracing your sexuality and being religious. All right, so I don't know what else to say, but she is a heretic, to say the least. All right, a thief, and August 14th, so that's yesterday, a thief in, see where this is, WLKY, I think it's back east, Louisville, Kentucky. Timothy Bassett couldn't believe what he was watching. His Ring surveillance camera app alerted him that there was some movement in his driveway. It turned out to be a thief stealing his truck. And he was even more surprised when the thief came back, not once but twice. And he labeled the thief as very bold. He took time to sit down on a swing set and drink a beer, and even stole cigarette butts out of the ashtray. So how do you like those apples? And here is your last weird news. Video of man giving tattoo in South Carolina McDonald's leads to arrest. And the gentleman's name is Brandon Prescia, 28, of Lawrence, South Carolina, held on a $25,000 bond. And they've actually got somebody videotaping this guy doing a tattoo on a girl in the thing. And I've just got a couple of thoughts here. Number one, nobody mentions this, but it is illegal to tattoo outside of a licensed tattoo parlor. But it's also, tattooing involves blood. It's dangerous. It's that's how germs or viruses, diseases can get passed around. Number one. Number two, they said that the girl was underage. Can you believe that? Underage girl. And number three, one of the reports, although I saw him, he looked like he was working on her arm, but one of the reports said he was tattooing her face. So, anyway, folks, let's do something about Afghanistan. Let's support the Republican Party, even though they are terrible. And they went along with this infrastructure bill. They're terrible for the most part. Let's get some Tea Partiers or new Tea Partiers, or I don't care if you're Christian or opposed to God, if you're Republican or Democrat, if you consider yourself very right or very left, we have to come together and fight against this crap that Biden's doing, because it's killing the entire country. There's no longer an excuse for it. Thank you. And I also kind of threw in some Middle Eastern music to set the scene. But anyway, you guys have a good day, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. I'm really trying to do a good one every day. Have a nice night. Kelly O'Connell, ciao. And hit subscribe and a thumbs up. Thank you.